I am going to tell you the story of a man who had everything money could buy, and lost every single person who claimed to love him, the moment he could no longer walk into a room and command it. His name was Ryan Carter, and before the accident, he was 34 years old, the founder of a technology empire worth billions, a man who was used to people saying yes to him before he even finished his sentence. Then one rainy night on a highway outside the city, his car spun off the road, and when Ryan woke up in a hospital bed 3 days later, the doctors told him he would never walk again. He was 34 years old, and he would spend the rest of his life in a wheelchair, and the first person to hear those words after him was his fiancée, Claire, who stood by his bedside holding his hand, and within 3 weeks, that hand had let go for good, and she was gone, along with the wedding invitations that had already been printed. If you believe that kindness can change even the coldest of hearts, stay with me, because this story will remind you why it matters. And if you do, take a second to like, share, and subscribe to Kindness True Stories, because stories like this deserve to be heard by more people. Ryan's business partners were next, quietly buying him out of decisions, whispering behind closed doors that a man in a wheelchair could not run a company from a hospital bed. And though he still held his shares, he no longer held their respect. His own mother, Diane, visited twice, said all the right things about staying strong, and then stopped answering his calls when he became too difficult, too bitter, too full of rage at a world that had taken his legs, and it seemed, his worth along with them. Ryan moved back into his enormous house on the outskirts of the city, a house with marble floors and empty rooms, and he fired 3 nurses in the span of 2 months, screaming at them, throwing water glasses, telling them he didn't need anyone's pity, and didn't need anyone's help. He believed, truly believed, that everyone who came into his life now only saw dollar signs, or felt sorry for him. And he had decided it was easier to push people away before they could leave on their own terms, because at least then, the leaving was his choice. Then came Lily Parker, 28 years old, a home care nurse with steady hands and a steadier spine, who walked into his house on a Tuesday morning and found him sitting alone in the dark with the curtains drawn. And when he told her to get out, she simply set down her bag and said she would be back tomorrow at 8. He tried everything to break her. He insulted her clothes, mocked her modest apartment, which she somehow knew about because he had looked her up, told her she was only there for the paycheck, and threw a glass of orange juice across the room, so hard it shattered against the wall inches from her feet. Lily did not flinch. She knelt down, picked up the shards of glass with her bare hands, and told him that she had grown up with a father who drank too much and yelled louder than that, and that a rich man throwing a tantrum in a mansion did not scare her one bit. For the first time since the accident, Ryan did not have a response, because no one had spoken to him like that in years, not as a billionaire, not as a broken man, but as a person who was simply behaving badly and needed to know it. Over the following weeks, something shifted in that house. Lily showed up every single morning at 8, rain or shine, and she did not tiptoe around him the way everyone else had. She teased him about his stubbornness, challenged him to try his physical therapy exercises when he wanted to skip them, and sat with him in comfortable silence when the anger finally gave way to grief. She learned that Ryan loved old jazz records, that he used to cook for his mother every Sunday before he became too busy to remember her birthday, that underneath the sharp suits and sharper tongue was a boy who had built an empire partly to prove to a father, who left when he was 9 years old, that he was worth staying for. Ryan learned that Lily had been engaged once too, to a man who left when her younger brother got sick and the medical bills piled up, and that she had chosen nursing, not because it paid well, because it certainly did not, but because she had once been the person nobody stayed for, and she had promised herself she would be the one who stayed for someone else. Slowly, painfully, Ryan began to let her in, first with small things. A genuine thank you, a joke that made her laugh so hard she nearly dropped his lunch tray, and then with bigger things, the story of the accident he had never told anyone, the fear that he would spend the rest of his life as someone people tolerated rather than loved. 6 months after Lily first walked through his door, Ryan surprised her by wheeling himself, unassisted, all the way down the hallway to the kitchen where she was making coffee. Something his physical therapist said he had refused to even attempt with anyone else, and when she turned around and saw him standing braced on his own 2 legs for the very first time since the crash, gripping the parallel bars they had installed at his insistence, she cried, and so did he. Ryan Carter learned, in the end, that money could buy comfort but never company, that titles could fill a room but never a life, and that the people who truly change us are rarely the ones with something to gain, but the ones who simply refused to leave when leaving would be so much easier. 2 years later, Ryan walked down a different aisle than the one he had once planned. This time with a cane in one hand, and Lily's hand in the other, surrounded by the family and friends who had actually stayed, proving that even the coldest, most broken hearts can be healed by someone who simply chooses, every single day. If this story touched your heart even a little, if you believe that kindness has the power to heal what money never could, please like, share, and subscribe to Kindness True Stories, because we believe every person deserves to be reminded that they are worth staying for.